How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Living Legends podcast. This is going to be a relatively relaxed one compared to some of our other ones. There is a rather large elephant in the room that has happened recently that I think we want to touch on at least a little bit, just to maybe clear up some misconceptions.
You gotta push that elephant out of the room. You gotta just push it out. Get out of here, elephant.
Yeah,
the elephant.
exactly.
The elephant's not me for once. Yay.
But yeah, anyway, so this is going to be a little bit more of a casual. We took some viewer questions and we're going to be talking about those. But before I get too ahead of myself, I am Bill from the Spike Feeders. I will be the host of today's episode. And joining me today is Kel from Red Zone Rogue, if you want to say hi.
Hello, my name is Kel from Red Zone Rogue. How are you guys doing? How you doing, Az from Go Again Gaming?
Yeah, I'm not bad. Kel from Red Zone Rogue. How are you, Bill from Spike Feeders?
You know what?
Or Spike Feeders Fab, I should say.
You know what? Az from Red Zone Rogue. Wait, I'm getting confused. Yeah. Anyway, so the three lovely living legends are back once again to give our opinion about the wide and wonderful world of Flesh and Blood. And as mentioned today, well, Az hasn't mentioned it yet, but as mentioned, we are going to be talking about a little bit of controversy, a little bit of drama that popped up just sort of over the weekend, I believe is kind of when that all boiled over.
Yeah.
But Kel was pretty knee deep in everything. You want to give us just a brief overview of what we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, okay. So I'll give you a quick rundown of at least my experience. I won't spend too much time on this because chances are if you follow me on Twitter, you already saw it because it got a lot of interaction. But I went to bed and I saw, like right before I went to bed, I saw this post from the official Flesh and Blood Twitter account. And it was of one of the Flesh and Blood employees. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but it was one of the Flesh and Blood employees shredding all of the extra gold tunics that Legendary Studios had promised would no longer be given out at events. So if you didn't know, these tunics were given out as top prizes for high-level tournaments, right? And they had previously promised that they're done. No more are going to be given out. In fact, new ones are going to be gold Crown of Providence, I believe. And so they just released a video of them shredding it. And I kind of watched it and I'm like, oh, well, I guess that's a thing. And then I went to bed. I woke up and there was a giant, I guess you call it like a hubbub or kerfuffle about it. And there was a lot of stuff going on. And a lot of it stemmed from certain larger personalities in other games tweeting about it with very little context to it, and it caused an uproar in mostly the not Flesh and Blood community, I will say. A lot of folks were very upset at this, and that's kind of the crux of it. I retweeted about it, and then I tweeted again about it, and I got a lot of interaction, but that's kind of the framework here of what we're going to talk about.
God, you danced around. You did a dance around that so well. I loved it. That's brilliant. Certain individuals from a different game decided
Excellent
to
PR
do.
talk. I'm not sure if we want to name drop or anything, right? I mean, we could, because at the end of the day, I still have good relationships with these people, especially, I retweeted in fact, and I was just like, yo, no hard feelings at all. I just thought people needed to chill out, right? Because people were overreacting severely, in my opinion, and I was just like, yo, people just need to calm down. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is, as well, it's nobody was going to get those cards anyway. LSS had said that, after all these events and stuff, nobody's going to get these cards anyway. So then they were never available to have to anyone anyway, no matter whether they were shredding them or going to sit in a drawer for the rest of eternity. Nobody was going to get their hands on them anyway. So, it doesn't matter, really. That's my whole view on it. It doesn't...
It's not only that, other companies do this. For example, this is another recent one for another game that I cover, Grand Archive. They recently went to Anime Expo and they had an exclusive Anime Expo promo. And then you could only get the promo at Anime Expo and all extras were destroyed. And they did that. They destroyed and ripped up all of the extras of the Anime Expo promos. So that's just another recent example. Another example that I think Bill brought up was the Magic the Gathering World Champion promo that like they had printed extra copies of and they destroyed them or something like that. I think Bill, you probably know this a little bit better than I do.
Yeah, so I mean, compared to this example and the example that you just gave, Kel, the one for Magic, I will say, is not recent. Like, it is sort of ancient history, but it is something that was very public, and I think it's pretty applicable considering the card itself. For those of you who are listening that want to read up on it a little bit more, is called the 1996 World Champion. And it was made for the winner of the 1996 World Championships for Magic the Gathering. And it was an exclusive, one-of-a-kind promo card made specifically for this one person. And to make sure that it was an exclusive and, it wasn't a card that was just a totally random thing, they made a sheet of them. They gave the one to the winner, and then they publicly destroyed the rest at the World Championship to make sure that this was still like a one-of-a-kind card, to make it special, to make it, have weight. It's an accomplishment. It's symbolizing your accomplishment in this tournament. So, I mean, it was in 1996, but I don't necessarily know that matters quite as much. I do want to say, just up front, I do sympathize with the people that weren't, as in the know as the Flesh and Blood community that just saw this video and thought that it was in poor taste. Because I did see like other people just from like the Spike Feeders Discord that were talking about it, and they said, I think it was meant to be a joke, and it wasn't like a super funny joke.
Well,
so like
a little history on this. They've done something like this before. They shredded all of the test print Heart of Fiendals. So they had a bunch of test print, like cold foil Heart of Fiendals, and then they shipped them to someone as packaging. Like they put it in the box as the shreds in the box as packaging for some person's rewards. I don't remember exactly what it was, but because, I think they just think it's just this funny joke thing. They're like, haha, look, we shredded the things. Look, we're honoring our word, and also like it's funny. Look at us. I think that's what they thought it was. Like,
I think that was because James White specifically wanted there to be fewer cold foil Heart of Fiendals than there were Black Lotuses. I think that was like a very intentional thing that he wanted to do with the first set of Flesh and Blood. He wanted there to be this like chase, really expensive card. So there was however many, I don't remember what the actual number is. And then, he shredded the rest and used them just as you would with like sizzle in a gift basket or, like packing peanuts.
Yeah.
Confetti. Exactly. So as Kel said though earlier, we don't really want to dwell on this like as much as we already have, but, we just kind of wanted to provide a little bit of context with respect to why nobody in the Flesh and Blood community was that riled up about it. And one of the main concerns that people had when they saw it was they went right to TCG Player, they looked up Fiendal's Spring Tunic, and they saw that this card was, 200 USD. And it was like, oh, well, this is in pretty poor taste when this is like a competitive staple that is kind of locked behind this paywall, and they're shredding copies of it, and that just feels like it's in poor taste. The copies that they were shredding, first of all, it was their copy. It was their property to do with, like, as said, the difference between shredding it and letting it sit in an office, like in a desk drawer somewhere, is fundamentally exactly the same because nobody else was getting these copies anyway. But the other main thing is again, like with the World Championship card, it solidifies the value for the people who won this as a trophy, because instead of them getting, I think, as far as I know, instead of them getting a cash prize, like the tunic is their prize. That's their payout.
The cash prizes usually aren't super high. Like, I mean, they're decent, like a couple $1,000 or here or there, but usually it's the card that has most of the value.
And I think that that's great too, because then that means that LSS doesn't have to go out of pocket to congratulate these players for these achievements. Like it's an achievement for sure. So it's making sure that the people who worked hard and won them fair and square get to keep that as like a sentimental thing, instead of all of a sudden seeing everybody else has this trophy that you topped a tournament for. So I think that's fine. And then also in terms of the market value, I think the last time I saw one of these gold foil tunics move, I think it sold for $20,000 or $25,000.
Yeah, that's about the price.
Which is a far cry from the 200 that it is on TCG Player. And I don't want to say that $200 isn't a lot of money, because to a lot of people it's a significant investment. But if these gold tunics, even I think they capped it at 50, there were 50 given out, and then they shredded the remaining 39. Even if these extra 39 went on the market, the regular tunics would still be $200. It wouldn't impact their price or their value or their availability at all in either direction.
Yeah. These gold tunics had absolutely no bearing on regular tunics at all.
Yeah, which then could be extrapolated out to say that these gold tunics that they shredded kind of didn't have value. Like, they had like potential value if they actually made it out into the market, but since the only people that were going to touch them was that guy at LSS that shredded them, like, I don't know. It is a weird thing to see, and a lot of people were very concerned about, what if Wizards of the Coast posted a video of them shredding, fetch lands or mana crypts or something. And while it would feel bad, I don't know, they had their reasoning for it. Was it like the best possible video? Like, was it a gut busting knee slapper of a video? Like, no, not really. It was kind of the same as like, I'm subscribed to the subreddit MTG Gore, where it's like pictures of people that are like, oh, I forgot my set of fetch lands in my shirt pocket, and then sent it through the washing machine. And you look at it and you're like, ooh, that hurts. But like, you don't get mad about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an unfortunate thing, but they had their reasons.
I mean, for me, it's pretty simple, and I think it's why. I mean, there was context in the video itself, but it's just like, it's a company fulfilling their promise to their fans. That's simply what it is. They're like, hey, we're not going to be giving out any more of these. Here's proof, right? And I think they just thought it would be like a fun little thing that was taken poorly by a community that wasn't their own. That's basically like the cut and dry of this. Because like everyone that I've talked to who plays Flesh and Blood, like literally everyone, I haven't seen a single person, maybe there are a couple, but everyone's like, yeah, cool. Like, maybe it hurts, maybe the video's kind of weird or whatever, but like no one's upset that they did this because they literally promised that they would do this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's LSS sticking to their word, isn't it? It's like the podcast last week when we talked about the Black Label and the fact that they said, oh yeah, we can just destroy it all because we made a mistake. Mm-hmm. And the community was like, oh no, don't have to do that. But it's just the fact that their tenacity of the fact that they want, that they can and do these things, is backing up their word. So yeah, I did a little poll on my channel saying, what's everyone's thoughts on the shredding video? My audience was like 31% was like, oh, that's hilarious. 12% said it's absolute sacrilege, and then 58% was like, I could not give a flying banana. Yeah. So it's just there's a wide spread there as to what's going on.
Basically, 89% either didn't care or thought it was funny. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And again, like I there was a bit of knee-jerk reaction from the Flesh and Blood community when people from other communities saw this video and they started berating LSS. Or punching down to people who do play Flesh and Blood, saying like, oh, well, like, I'm so glad I didn't get into it because it's obviously a scam. And I don't want to say that having a negative reaction to this video is inherently like a bad thing. Obviously, people are entitled to their opinion. If you didn't like the video, then that's fine. But when it gets to the point of like insulting is a harsh word. It really is. But like, like talking down to people for playing a game that they like because of something that, they don't have the full context for, is just like not cool for any game, I don't think. Like it's fine to have like a strong reaction to it, being like, oh, well, this is an expensive card and they're not giving it out. But I don't know. I saw a couple of instances of people like insulting specific people instead of just being like, oh, LSS is stupid for doing this one. And when it got to that point, it was definitely like, okay, people need to calm down.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, I think we can pretty much move on, but ultimately we just are, I don't know, I pitched this to the other two guys just before we hit record, and I just wanted to say, maybe we can add just a little bit more context, clear up the air a little bit. If people are still upset about it, then sure, whatever, but at least we've done our piece, and maybe cleared things up.
The whole thing is just ridiculous. Like, come on.
Yeah,
it's just so
on both sides.
It's just so dumb. Yeah.
Yeah, because there were also instances of people from the Flesh and Blood community coming out maybe a little bit too strong, and there was a fair amount of people saying, "Oh well, like Flesh and Blood has so many like militantly defensive people," and there was a bit of overreaction on both sides, but at the end of the day, I think that it's fine to move on from it. I think that everybody has basically said what they have to say, so.
Absolutely.
But speaking of everybody saying things, the other major portion of this episode, we figured, we were going to do sort of a callback to our first ever episode and just take some community questions and chat about those. Because
what episode is this, by the way? Do you know the number?
I believe this is episode 8, and I figured we would do stuff like this every now and then when there's like a little bit of a lull period. Flesh and Blood, they release sets every like 3 to 4 months, so we'll have a decent amount of like little like lull time, so we can address community questions and just kind of kick back a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And we definitely have some good ones. We got a couple from Az's community, we got a couple from Twitter, and I think we got
they're everywhere, really.
Yeah. Some of them are a little bit more substantial than others. I don't want to say bad or good, but some of them, like one of them here is duck or chicken.
Chicken.
And I'm not saying that it's a bad question. Please don't interpret it that way. But I feel like that's a one-word answer.
Yeah, chicken.
Chicken.
Chicken's my
chicken.
Yeah.
Did you ever play absolute side tangent, but we love these. Did you ever play well, obviously everyone played Tekken, right? The fighting game.
Yeah.
But there was a sub game in Tekken called Tekken Force Mode, where it was like a side scroller, like sort of Streets of Rage style, if you know what I'm talking about.
Really? Which Tekken? I remember Tekken Bowling. What?
It's like I think it was
bowling too.
I think it was Tekken 3. It was on PS1, and there was a little side game where I think you have to complete the game with every character or something, and then you unlock it. But then you get put into this like 3D beat 'em up style thing where you scroll from side to side like Streets of Rage, like Final Force style. And every time you picked up the chicken, which obviously gave you your life back, it went chicken.
What?
Every time you pick it up, it was like chicken, like to restore your life. But that's just what that reminded me of. So I just thought I'd say that.
All right, yeah.
Leave a comment in the section below if you know what Az is talking about. Probably not.
If you remember that, because the thing that I remember about Tekken, and please correct me if this is the wrong fighting game, but I'm pretty sure it is. But in Tekken, can't you play as a panda bear?
Yeah.
You can.
Kuma,
I'm pretty sure his name is just Panda.
Well,
no, it's Kuma. Yeah.
Well, Kuma might be the regular bear, and there might be Panda separate. Because I think there might be two.
It's Kuma and Panda.
Yeah, because then you can also play as the raptor, and you can also play as the kangaroo, but they have the same kind of like rigging.
Yeah.
It's just like how the pandas have the bear has the same rigging. I don't know. This is getting a little deep into it.
No, I was a big fan of Panda. That's for sure. But in terms of
Tekken's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But in terms of some other questions that are maybe a little bit more Flesh and Blood related, we have a bunch from somebody from Az's Discord that a lot of them actually look pretty solid.
I'll give a shout out to the guy as well, Mustache Woo. Recently joined the Discord as a result of the Azalea cult as well, which is something that's picking up a bit of steam. So I guess just pick one of those at random, Bills. There's quite a few. There's a few directed at people in particular as well, I believe.
Can't just let those brutes have all the cult-like behavior, right?
No, exactly. Yeah.
Let's see here. Let's just start from the top, honestly. So the first one here, will we have a limited class type? Like, will we get up to 12 playable classes and the rest are gimmicks? So, I mean, the question there, just for my own understanding, I believe, is there a finite number of classes that will ever be like viable.
I think someone else asked this question along the same lines on Twitter as well. I think it's impossible to tell, honestly. But I do think they will eventually get to, X number of classes and then not have any more main classes. And what I mean by main classes are classes that have actual substantial support in draft sets. And I would not consider Bard or Merchant a main, or Shapeshifter a main class. They're like these kind of like fun subclasses. I think they'll probably end up with like X number of classes and then just mix and match talents from there. Because we also know that there's going to be 10 talents total. So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, so obviously we had the screenshot of the lore book. Obviously, some people have got the lore book as well. You've got it, haven't you, Cal? I believe. And there's a page in there which obviously gives us all of the main classes. I imagine.
Well, actually, no. That's the weird part.
Okay.
There are some classes that exist that are main classes that are not in the lore book. So, for example, Runeblade is not in that book. So.
Right.
There could be big main classes that they haven't shown anywhere, right? So they can just come out of nowhere with like I don't know, like what's a big class in fantasy?
I mean, they could probably do
like barbarian,
or like a warlock.
Yeah, something like that.
Which could kind of be wizard, but I think it would be different enough.
Because I know we've had obviously the ones in between, haven't we? Like merchant, like adjudicator.
Yeah, exactly.
That that they can release those sorts of heroes just for like fun sets like PVE that we're going to get, or UPF, which is obviously picking up steam and stuff. So it's good that they can still do that randomly.
I don't know why I didn't just say rogue, because who I am. Rogue, they could just have rogue. And it's like, here you go. Here's a rogue class. They're probably gonna do that with assassin, but like, here you go. Here's a thief rogue type, character, and that's not in the lore book. So yeah.
Well, I do think that they're like, in terms of playable, the way that I interpreted this was like in terms of viable, like for classes that are good in constructed formats, which could be, I think that I like your guys' interpretation a little bit better in terms of how LSS is going to design the actual game, because like we also have, although I was going to say Taylor is a different hero, but no, she's also a shapeshifter along with Shiana. And they're not like real classes, but I think they're going to keep expanding on it. But in terms of actual like viable tournament decks, I think there will always be a specific amount that are good, because of how gaming works in general.
That's how just card games work. Like, and I don't think the classes in that regard matter all that much. Like, it's just going to be like X hero is going to be like, the meta for a while, and then it's going to shift.
It'll be based on hero ability and just card quality in general.
Exactly.
For sure. But I think that LSS has kind of set themselves up to not necessarily go infinite in terms of the amount of classes that they can release, but they can go, I think, even just pretty wide, as long as they are printing the correct amount of support for classes as they come out.
I think I have a good analogy for folks who are new to card games, but maybe aren't new to like gaming in general. So if you play like an MMO, for example, if you played like PvP in an MMO, you know that there's always a couple classes that are like just better than the other ones, and then some will get nerfs, some will get buffs, and things will change. That's exactly how I see Flesh and Blood, kind of like a World of Warcraft PvP kind of thing. So like, maybe this season Mage is a little overpowered and Warriors suck. But then next season, Warriors are overpowered. It's going to be kind of like that, I think.
The next question as well sort of goes into that as well. It says, if we explore the world of Wraith, do you think LSS will expand the actual continent, or will they time skip into a new era? That's interesting.
Oh, the last one's weird, actually. Yeah. Go ahead, guys.
I don't know.
Sorry, you go ahead, Az.
I was going to say, it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Because the heroes that we all know and love are just going to become oldims. or old hers or whatever.
Well,
Old M's.
olders.
Old them.
Look at all these old M's.
Loads of them.
So the first part of this is actually something that DM Armada and I had talked about like a long time ago, like, a couple years ago, back when there was only like 2 Flesh and Blood sets, and we had like the continent. We're thinking like, oh, is this the only continent? So if you look into the Flesh and Blood lore, you know that the humans actually traveled to Wraith from somewhere else. We don't know where. We don't really know much about that. We don't know if it's another continent, if it's another... We don't really know. Are they going to go elsewhere? Maybe, but I always joked and gave Stephen hope, because he, if you don't know, DM Armada really loves pirates. I always gave him hope that maybe we would fully explore the continent, right? And then we would have like a high seas expansion and then go to a new continent. I just kind of give him hope for a pirate class. But if
there's ever a high seas expansion, we get Stephen on this podcast for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Boats.
I don't think they're going to skip to a new era. I mean, they might eventually, but I think they're really setting up for like a cohesive story that's going to span the entire continent.
Yeah, I think so.
Who knows what's going to happen 15 years from now, but I don't see any of this stuff happening, not even in the next 5 years, because we haven't even seen all the talents yet, right? And I would assume that after we see all the talents, then we can like revisit areas and reintroduce the talents, maybe mix things up a little bit, mix up the talents and the classes. I think they have a ton of stuff. Like, they've really set themselves up to have a ton of different options and possibilities for classes and talents and all of these things. And I think the world is deep enough to explore these regions multiple times. So I kind of hope they don't. I hope they explore what we have more for a while. So
yeah, definitely.
That's my rant about it. I'm sorry. That's something that like I mentioned that we've talked about. Stephen and I, DM Armada and I have talked about like a long time ago, and it was one thing that I always think about in terms of Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, it's nice to see that people are still thinking about what is going to happen in the future. People are so engraved in it, and it's like, oh, what's going to happen, like, in the future. So that's good. It's good that people are still visiting it.
Looking and trying to figure out where the room to grow lies. Which then, of course, is assuming that there is room to grow, which is great, because then that means people are excited about the game.
Yeah, they've done a great job, because like there's the regions, right? But they've also set themselves up for like this other world where all like the demons and stuff come from, and they've set up like the magic of the world to be very interesting, in that like each region seems to have its own kind of source of magic, like the Volcor, right? They're using ash and like basically ash from the deserts to transform them into like these dragons that maybe used to exist but don't exist anymore. I'm a little confused on that exactly. Whereas like someone like Prism is using fables to manifest them from her like imagination. Like, I don't know. They have a lot to explore, and a lot that's not even touched upon at all. So yeah.
I think there's a couple here that, not that they're not great questions, but we do have questions from other people. So I'm going to skip over a couple from Mr. Mustache Woo. But there are a couple that I still want to talk about here. One of them, I think this is going to be a relatively quick one, at least in my eyes, but do you think we will get to the point where we focus on the new classes, like the first 8 classes have enough card pool and need to support the newer classes? And to that I say we haven't actually supported the first 8 classes enough, because Mechanologist has not seen anything outside of supplemental sets since Arcane Rising.
Yet. I strongly believe Q1 2023 will be Mechanologist set, but yeah.
I very much think so too, but also the flip side of that, instead of me being pedantic about it, I do think that we will, especially with how the release schedule has been changed since they publicly came out and said we're going to do big set and then small supplemental set.
Yep.
So at the very least, you'll have 2 sets worth of cards to support the new heroes that they're printing, where you maybe don't have other heroes printed within the actual supplementals, although you might still, for some, like I'm thinking back to Crew, where they printed like all of the young Blitz heroes that only exist in young forms.
Yeah.
They might still do that, but I think like largely it will be support for the newly introduced heroes from the previous big set. So I think that is, like, obviously it is a good concern to have, because we went so long without like ninja getting support, or as I said, mechanologist. So making sure there's as little amount of time in between the first printing and support as possible, I think is going to be really important. And this one, I think we can all pitch in on this one too. But what card, including weapon and hero, would you like to see get supported? For example, microprocessor is still not enough to make Datadol competitive.
Well, I mean, like, it's Datadol, right? Like,
Yeah.
you would have to start, like, seriously, you would have to start with microprocessor to make Datadol competitive. Because, like, if you still have a 3-card hand. Yeah.
Yeah, if you put microprocessor's ability and stapled it right onto Datadol, I think she would still be only okay. And that's not saying that microprocessor isn't an insane card, because it is in Datadol. It's such a good card.
It's the best card in Shiana.
Yeah. Yeah, because Shiana gets a 4-card hand.
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't know. In terms of stuff that I'd like to see supported, I think most of my fears and concerns have actually been kind of remedied, at least recently. I really like where Illusionist as a general class is. Unfortunately, right now that's like an unpopular opinion because of how strong Prism is. But I like the generic Prism or the generic Illusionist shell that they've created. Like, they have the skeleton there.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, absolutely.
I was just gonna say, I love what they're doing with the talents in regards to the classes, because you're talking about Illusionist now and the Illusionist shell, and I agree. And I think it's because they have done such a fantastic job with the talent system, in that we have Illusionist, and Illusionist currently is a spellcastery kind of class that makes a board present. It's not always the same kind of board presence, right? Because the spectral shields are different than Ash, and each of them are different. But I really love what they're doing with the talent. So, like, you can imagine how, like, a shadow illusionist would manifest. It's gonna be significantly different, because both of our illusionists so far are, like, quite different from each other, but they still have the same, like, core tenets. And I think I think that's awesome, and I think it makes for so much design space. We were already talking about, like, playable classes, right? But, like, just Illusionist as an example right now feels like 2 separate classes, the way Dromai and Prism play. And they have some shared mechanics, right? You have your Phantasm and that kind of stuff, and a board presence, but they still feel super different. And so if there's only ever 12 classes, but there's like 10 talents, like, think of all, like, the mixes and matches you can do there. I think it's, like, super interesting. They've done a great job. Like, I don't want to say future-proofing, but kind of. Like,
pretty much, because the classes have been set in stone, haven't they? Pretty much, we know what we're going to be getting, but every talent that you adds a different theme and a different flavor that they can then expand upon.
Yeah.
So if you imagine an illusionist that comes from Mysteria making, like, these mist beings that then just can't be blocked, like similar to it's just the design space and the creativity that the talents allow you to sort of tack on to classes that already exist, I think is, like you say, a great way to explore other things in the future without sort of veering too far away and making random classes. You can make that class out of a talent and a class that you already have, pretty much. Like, if they wanted to make a dragon summoner, they did that by having an illusionist and a draconic in front of it. So it's definitely a good place to be.
Yeah, I think that they're really making sure that they're designing things carefully so that they can include more stuff and not have it look or feel clunky or awkward. Like, depending on how many just straight up illusionist cards are actually playable in Dromai, I haven't looked, to be completely honest, but like Kel said, I think it's Dromai and Prism, while they are different playstyles, they're the same class, and they still have these things that tie them together fundamentally, mechanically, and flavorfully. And I just think that's great.
Yeah.
But do you have any heroes that you would like to see supported other than Azalea? Because there's already a question about that. So.
No, there is, yeah. So obviously going off the back of this question, yeah. Also, the question for me at the bottom is, what are your ideal cards for Azalea, and how does Ranger work with Mentor? So Ranger doesn't have a Mentor yet, but with regards to that, I'm going to sort of side skip it a little bit because that's what the Azalea cult is all about. The new series,
Yeah.
you know, delving into all the intricacies about her. So I'm going to side skip that question for now because I want to do that on my videos, if that's okay.
Yeah, go watch the Azalea cult for that question answered.
Exactly.
Would not want to step on your toes like that.
Yeah, but yeah. Ranger is my answer, just so you know, for future reference.
To shortcut it, Ranger is also my answer.
Yeah.
But for some of the same reasons. I think Lexi's good. But we only currently have, a regular untalented Ranger, and then we have the Elemental Ranger with Lexi. I would love to see more Ranger stuff. I would love to see where the class goes. I think it's one of the most flavorful classes out there. So in terms of like melding flavor and gameplay. So would love to see more Ranger stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm going to pick one final question from Mustache Woo, and then we'll hop over to some other ones from Twitter. But I do want to hear what Kel has to say about what type of assassin would you like to play. Ooh. My local game group discussed that it's like Warrior, but with small weapons and on-hit reactions, or potentially like Wizard, where you can attack on your opponent's turn. So what do you generally have in mind for assassin?
Back in 2020, I actually made a video going over a custom assassin class with my own custom assassin cards, and I made like 12 of them. Yeah. So yeah, I can like link it for you guys, but I made my own assassin class, and the way I built it, it was actually based around the currency. So like bronze, silver, and gold, because assassins are paid contract killers, and so you would get bonus effects if you would banish X number of copper, silver, or gold. So, for example, like sometimes you could get dominate on your ability or that kind of stuff. I would like to see assassin. I'm kind of an aggro player in a lot of the things that I do, so I would like to see aggro. But I can actually see it a couple different ways, right? Because I think assassins in general, when I think about it mechanically in terms of Flesh and Blood and like what they do, they're less like a ninja where there's like a death by 1,000 cuts, right? And more of like a shank you once and you're dead kind of thing. Like that's what an assassin does.
Like I was almost thinking of like a setup finisher type deal. Where you do something to prepare what your attack or what your like plan of attack is. And then you have this thing that because you've prepared it now either like maybe deals more damage or has like an on-hit effect like crush or something, like not exactly in those terms, but I could see something like that, like World of Warcraft's rogue class kind of plays a lot with that theme of like poison, and then also preparation is just a spell in World of Warcraft.
It's a very good. It's a very good one too. As someone who's played Rogue since Vanilla WoW, I can tell you.
Nice.
Yeah. I think big hits. Honestly, so this is what I think. What I think flavor-wise, really big hits, hard to defend hits, and then like subtlety. So like Bill said, poisons, maybe some evasiveness. So instead of having like raw block value, maybe they have some way to prevent damage, like to dodge or to go into the shadows or something like that. So that's what I think of when I think assassin. So I would like to see that to be really flavorful, because I think Flesh and Blood, we've already talked about this. They've been really good about bringing flavor into their classes, and that's exactly what I would like to see with my favorite, or what I would guess to be my favorite class, assassin. There's a reason why my channel is called Red Zone Rogue, so. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely.
I'm all here for it. I can't wait for Assassin.
It's gonna happen too, isn't it?
I really think it's actually gonna be in Dynasty, and I kind of don't want it to be. I want it to be in a main set. I want to draft Assassin and play Assassin, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
That would be super cool.
Nice.
Actually, just to hop over to some other questions, there's one from Twitter. Abhinav or AJA_0207 had a pretty interesting one that sort of ties in with the how we started this episode, which is, should we lower the rarity of generic legendary equipment like Fiendel's Spring Tunic in the supplemental sets? This would increase the supply of the equipment and will bring in more new players. I do think that is what LSS is trying to do. Like, that's what I thought their intent was with the history packs. I was under the impression when they were announced and when they were first coming out that it would be, like the thing that you could buy if you were a new player and you just wanted to get your hands on cards from the first, 4 sets. Without, I guess 5, maybe. No, it would be 3, because it was Arcane Rising and Welcome to Wraith and Crew. So sorry, the first 3 sets. If you wanted to get your hands on those without paying the exorbitant prices for the black border versions, and I was also like, oh, this would be great, because then because enfranchised players likely wouldn't want to purchase these because it's all reprints. So what if they could then say, these are prize packs for tournaments. You can have these and like maybe push down the MSRP of them so that it is more accessible for the store as well as the players, just to get these extra reprints in while keeping the pull rates about the same. But then I found out that the allocation was lower than a lot of people expected, and I can't help but personally think that feels like a misstep on LSS's part. I don't know if that was something that just happened because of distribution or that was their intent all along, but I think that what I see from them is that they are trying to do that. They are trying to make sure that these staples and this generic equipment is easier to access. But whether or not their attempts have been successful at this point, honestly, I do think that Uprising, now that I say that, I think that Uprising is a good implementation of this.
Yes.
Sort of going forward, because like the rainbow foil versions of the equipment are, by all accounts, pretty cheap right now, except for Crown of Providence and maybe Coronet Peak.
Coronet Peak's cheap. It's oddly enough Flameskull Furnace and Coronet Peak, or Flameskull Furnace and Crown of Providence are the 2 expensive ones.
But like the other ones are pretty cheap for the rainbow foils, at least. For the cold foils, they're still like a little bit expensive, but
I was gonna say the exact same thing. My answer to this question is no, because they're already doing that with Uprising, and legendaries are pretty cheap and they're pretty easy to pull. Depending, I mean, it's variance, right? You can get lucky and you can get very unlucky. But I've opened up cases that had like 3 and 4 legendaries, right? Between cold foil and rainbow foil. Whereas previous, it was like 1 or 0. Maybe if you're super lucky, you get 2. And now it's like you can get like 0 to 4 or 5, right? So I think they're easier to get. I don't think they need to change anything.
Yeah, I think they're sort of on the path. They've implemented a thing to make it easier in the future, and if they keep it in place with supplemental sets, then I think it'll be a slam dunk. But Az, what do you think?
Yeah, I think everything's been covered already. I think it's absolutely fine as it is, to be honest. But I mean, going back on what I said on one of the last podcasts, actually, I just want to see more generic equipments, because we've seen the skull caps and the tunics for so long now, but we have to keep remembering that the game is still young, so we are going to see more of these options come out as time goes on. But yeah, what they're doing at the moment, I think, is fine. But I'm just sick of seeing the same old things.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see different, and they're doing this with the Crown of Providence. I would like to see different versions of those same slots.
Yeah.
As opposed to like a arm piece or a leg piece, because I don't want it to get to the point where there's a head, chest, arm, and legs that are all generic and all really good, so you can just completely ignore what your class is and just play all generics. Like that's kind of just boring in terms of like deck building and game design.
And one thing that I was actually discussing yesterday when I was at my local armory, which I do genuinely appreciate, is the fact that there's Crown of Providence, which is like I think objectively just a good generic piece of equipment.
Oh yeah.
The remainder of the legendaries are like good, varying degrees of good, but good. But they're not like game-endingly strong. They're not like you absolutely need this card in order to play this class, otherwise you're not doing it correctly. Like I've seen that with when people discuss Kano. It's like, oh well, can I play Kano without Stormstriders? And the answer, like pretty much by and large, is like no.
Yeah, so that's a no. You kind of need that.
Or like if you wanted to play Ira and you don't have Mask of Momentum, it's like you can, but it's a much worse deck.
Yeah, there's a couple like Ranger for both Azalea and Lexi. You need the head. Like you need New Horizons or Skullbone cross wrap.
Yeah, otherwise the decks just don't work properly. So I really do appreciate the fact that people like that they printed these cards that aren't just like immediate slam dunks. Like you do actually have considerations to make. You have options, and like as was saying, I think that options are the most important thing that we can have.
Agreed.
I'm totally fine with legendaries being like okay, and they can they can help you with a certain strategy that you want to try out with a hero, but they aren't the be all end all to actually play the class in general. Anyway, that's another thing that I think I really, really appreciate about what they've been doing in terms of design. I think the fact that these, that some of them are underwhelming is fine, because I don't think any of them, except for maybe Ghostly Touch, but that's a like right now thing. I don't think that any of them are overtly super disappointing.
Oh, dude, I love Ghostly Touch. I love the design space on that card. I think it's awesome.
Like I totally agreed. I absolutely love it. But I've seen a lot of people complain about how it's like, oh well, like who would ever play this, blah blah blah. And it's like, well, maybe the hero just isn't here yet. And, like they could be setting up for later.
Or maybe it's just like a fun card that you play in PvE or
that
UPF
too.
or something. Like, not every card has to be like S tier tournament viable, right?
Exactly.
And I think they started to do this, what you're saying, with like Everfest, with like stuff like Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, where like you don't always run Mask of Momentum in Ninja decks now. Like some decks will want Pouncing Lynx.
Yeah,
that's what I think I'd like to see as well, is more sort of unique, weird equipment in majestic slot. So it just gives us more options. I think that is what we need for equipment, because it's just seeing the same old things over and over again just gets a bit
Yeah, agreed.
I would love to see just like slightly watered down rare versions of equipment too.
I'd love that.
We've had like what was it? Arcane Lantern was a rare. And then in Crew, the weapons were rares just because they didn't have tokens.
Yeah.
But like we haven't had rare like helmets or chest pieces or whatever, and I think that that's still a design space that can be utilized. It might the argument might then be like, oh well, you're sort of watering down the packs by having so many pieces of equipment. But I don't know. I think there could be an argument to be made with maybe like a supplemental set or something where they instead of printing the same common equipment again in the supplemental set, or they have X amount and then they have extra room, I think they could try out printing rare pieces of equipment that are like stronger than a common but not quite as strong as a majestic, that again just give you more options.
Give me the weird stuff in supplemental sets. Give me like
exactly
oddball stuff that lets you mess with your pitch zone or something weird. Just do it.
Anyway, another one about printing stuff. This is kind of on the other end of the spectrum, from lowering the rarity of things to kind of inflating the rarity of things. This is a question from Sloopdupe. Alt Art Marvel common/rare staples like Sink Below and Energy Potion in supplemental sets, yay or nay? I think this is a yay.
I think it is.
This is like something that I was really hoping for uprising, actually. When I saw the Scar for a Scar reprint, I was like, oh, this is going to be the perfect place to do like an alt art Marvel, like Scar for a Scar. So I was actually a little, not a lot, but a little tiny disappointed that they didn't do it. Like they didn't think the same thing. Maybe they did and they just didn't want to. But I think it's a slam dunk. Like they should do that like often.
Yeah. Everyone loves pimping out their decks, don't they? And just,
Absolutely.
putting the shiny alternate version as to which one you like better for what reason in your deck. I think it's a slam dunk for 100%. Just makes things again more the way they're going as well with Uprising and stuff. The way they've changed all the sets and stuff. It makes things even more collectible that you can use for then trades, or if you want a version of that card where you've got a special version of this card, it just sort of enhances that side of it as well. So slam dunk.
I agree. I think it also, like, a lot of folks might be like, oh, it devalues the older ones because there's a new and shiny one. No, I think it's the opposite, actually. I think if you don't use the old art ever again, and you just, like, the old art is the old art and it stays the old art, if you use, like, a newer art or, like, an alternate thing, right, it makes both of them special. Because, like, then you can, if you really like the old art, then you have to go back to the old sets to get the old art. I think it's a win-win.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, like, look at things like Scar for Scar or Sink Below. Like, they did get reprinted in pretty massive quantities. Like, you can still get packs that have Sink Below in them, but if you get a pink pitch Sink Below, that's a pretty penny.
Yep.
The old versions, I think, will always have a place in people's hearts, and having new versions that are different art or whatever doesn't inherently devalue the other printings. I think that's absolutely correct. And same with having these in, like, Marvel slots. Something that I've seen very prominently with Uprising is the fact that there are so many different Marvels and so many things to collect that the ones that people really want still stay expensive, but the other ones are, like, still accessible. Something that personally I've experienced is in my quest to collect the entire set, I'm looking for a few more of the extended art Phoenix Flame cards. Not the Phoenix Flames themselves, but Stoke the Flames and Flame Call Awakening. And I thought, just from my own personal experience and from seeing other people open the boxes or open cases at a time, I was like, oh man, these are going to be pretty expensive because you get maybe one extended art per case. That was like the average that I was seeing. But outside of Phoenix Flame, they're all like $5 or $10.
Yeah.
Which, it does then feel bad when you pull one, but it's because people are opening the packs looking for these chase cards. And, if there's a chase card that you really want that isn't maybe the most popular one, then you can still get it and you can still feel good about that.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, I just really like the idea of super juiced, like, common, Marvel versions of common staples. So people can still get the common ones for like 10 cents, or they can get like the really cool alternate cold foil one for like $100. But if you just need it to play with, it's like 10 cents. I really like that idea.
Yeah. And it makes the non-bling versions of cards in the set, like the regular Majestics and whatever, it also pushes the price on those down too, which is inherently a good thing because then people have access to these cards from the set that they want to play with. I know that just because of distribution things, that the US market for the first like week or two for Uprising was really weird because TCG Player had every single Majestic at like $17 or something. Which just isn't how card games work. But yeah, it's like you look at those and it's like, oh well, I really want to play this Icelander deck because I think it'd be really fun, but like I need 3 Frost Hex, 3 Hypothermia, 3 whatever, and they're all $18 or $20 each. But then people opened up cases and cases and cases of the set and just flooded the market, and now you can get like the regular versions of Frost Hex and Hypothermia for, I'm sure, like $2 or $3 each. Which means that the barrier of entry is just that much lower for people who actually want to play the game. I think that it's just like a bonus all around, because then collectors get some cool stuff, and then the people who want to play the game don't have to pay even like $10 for a Majestic. Can kind of feel bad if you need to play 3 of them.
Yeah.
I just think it's great.
I agree.
Yeah. Let's see. Who else do we have here? This one's actually just sort of an interesting one about viability in general. What hero do y'all think is the favorite to win nationals? And what hero do y'all have as an underdog that could field?
How much do you guys keep up with the meta narrative, like among the narrative that goes among like pros and that kind of stuff?
I'm like partially like I'm following a bunch of pro players on Twitter, and so I see them talk about stuff a lot.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, same here, really. I've heard that Viserai is very, very good at the moment, and I absolutely love to hear that because he was used to be my favourite hero. But you know how people are piloting it now, I wouldn't have a clue. But you know, it's just good to it's good to hear. But Viserai is what I'm hearing is going to be very good again, even without Bloodsheath.
Yeah, it's like a mid-rangey aggro style Viserai kind of thing.
Yeah, it just frustrates people as well, doesn't it? Because there's so much damage coming from different places. You know, it's just it's just one of those things. But I wouldn't know how they pilot it. But yeah, what do you think? I imagine you're in the sphere a bit more, I guess.
I try to keep up with it. I think the 4 front runners that people would consider like S tier classes or S tier heroes are Viserai, Briar, Prism, and Phi. I think those are the 4 S tier that if you asked any random pro, they'll probably say one of those 4. Or, you know, they could have a hot take and be like, oh, I think Oldhim is going to win it out or something. But I think those are the 4 prevailing ones. Personally, I don't know. I think it could really be any of those. I would never discount Prism. Prism has always been very, very strong ever since she was printed. And I think she's still just that strong. So I would never discount Prism. I think in almost all of the events that I've done coverage for, has Prism made it to the top 8 in every single one? It feels like
Probably.
there has been. So I would say Prism or Viserai. Probably Viserai. But who knows? I mean, once again, we could have like a, you know, kind of how we had at the first Pro Tour. We could have like an out of left field pick, like how everyone teched Kano. Or not everyone, but like a certain group of people teched Kano and they like dominated with it. So I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens too, where the pros are really keeping it hush hush, and they really have like a secret plan, like at least a certain group of them do. So, that's what I can't wait to see, isn't it? You know, it's just like, you know, seeing those weird decks come out of nowhere because some genius has figured out all the other decks that are, you know, doing really, really well. There's a weakness. You know, like, no one's running Arcane Barrier. No one is running Arcane Barrier.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
But
what about you, Bill? Do you have a guess?
I don't know. I think that it's been known for sure that Prism is just a solid hero and has been for a really long time, to the point that people are getting pretty sick of her. So I don't know. Right now I think she's at like 900-ish living legend points. So she's like basically on the way out, as long as people keep winning with her. So in one way, obviously I don't want her to win because I have this super dumb blitz deck that utilizes Prism and Luminaris that I would love to keep playing because I think it's super fun. But at the same time, like maybe Prism, like maybe it's time for her to go away.
No, they would just be in CC though. You could still play her in Blitz.
I guess that's true. Yeah. Okay. Now I feel better about it. Now I can still transmogrify my snatches and
Yeah.
keep having a great time.
In fact, it'll probably make a lot of the Prism stuff cheaper. To be honest, if
true.
they hit Living Legend.
Yeah. But so I think that Prism, as long as there are people that, you know, it's a deck that requires a lot of knowledge of matchups. So the longer that she stays in the meta and, you know, people are able to play against Phi, I guess, specifically as the new hero, then I think the stronger, on average, the top level Prism players are going to be in those matchups. So I do think that Prism, in my eyes, is like pretty favored to take it home. But I mean, I've seen Phi do some disgusting things. So yeah, for me, it's kind of a tough one.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think any 4 of those heroes has a good shot at it. Maybe some oddball stuff like Lexi or something could get in there too, but
I think that basically there will always be like 1 or 2 dark horses that break top 8. just people who are either really comfortable with the deck that they're playing or just see an opening for them to be like, oh man, nobody's expecting Levia. I'm just gonna jam Levia.
Yeah.
And everyone's gonna lose. I'm gonna I can't even think of Levia cards right now to make this joke funny.
Doomsday.
The convulsions from the bellows of hell.
It's a great metal
that's a
band.
metal one. Yeah, big fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I think we have some other questions here, but some of them are just kind of variations on a theme. And again, I don't want to say that they're not good questions or they're not interesting questions, but I think that we've covered a lot of decent topics today. I don't know about you guys, if you want to keep going for one or two more.
We could probably do maybe like one or two more. I'd say we got like another 10 minutes in us before we do Arsenal Step.
Okay. Let's see. Did you have any questions that you saw that you would want to highlight specifically?
Just having a quick look through now.
I mean, there's the one from Outlaw Paul that's just about Cleric, and I know, Bill, you really want Cleric.
Oh, yeah.
He's Outlaw Paul. It's basically the gist of it is like, what would you like to see with Cleric and how they're going to interact with the talent system for Flesh and Blood?
I'm really excited for that one. Because I think that is going to be where they go like right out the gate, probably. I think it'll be somewhat similar to how we saw Prism enter the arena, where, we saw our very first illusionist was also talented, light illusionist. I think that it's going to be the same for Cleric, but I don't know what I would want to see the most. I think that like a Shadow Cleric would be really interesting. I don't know if that's like too easy of an answer though.
I just don't think we'll see Shadow for a while.
Yeah, because it is locked specifically to the Demonastery. So that makes it like a little bit tough, but we could definitely see like just even if we didn't see a talented Cleric and we just saw a regular one, I think that the way that it would make sense for Flesh and Blood in general and like as a game design, if they didn't make it sort of a spin-off hero, kind of like how Yorick is, or Genus, where they're not actually built for real play, but they are sort of like memes, which was something that we touched on a little bit earlier. If they introduce Cleric as like an actual class, I think that making it like a War Cleric, having it be like kind of a tanky type class that can hit hard and also maybe like heal or do something to do with life gain in general, even if it was like healing both heroes for an effect. I think that would be sort of the way to go, because if they did it in the traditional style of Cleric, when you think of it like a white mage from Final Fantasy where it's just healing, I don't think there's a way that they can implement that feels good for anybody to play as or against.
Hold on a minute. Sunkiss and Moonwish.
They do damage though. Sunkiss does damage.
Yeah.
Stop healing, damn it.
There's two Cleric types that I think would be really cool that I'd like to see. And this is just me assuming a lot. So the first one is a Cleric from Mysteria that can control like the winds and like the mist. So they're like a storm Cleric or something, right? And then there's a Cleric from the Savage Lands, and they're more like a shaman, where they can control like a, I think I said this last time, but like a witch doctor kind of thing, a la Diablo 3 kind of vein, where they're a Cleric, but they're also like more jungly. I think those could be really interesting and still fit into that Cleric mold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, a Cleric from Metrics would be hilarious. I have no idea what they would do. Like this steampunk Cleric would be crazy. And I'm already imagining them. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Trigun, but there's a character in Trigun who carries around a cross. He carries around a big cross. Then it turns out it's actually a giant gun. I think that would be awesome too. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
That's what I'm hoping for now as well.
Yeah, I could definitely. As soon as you said cleric for metrics, I was like, "Yo, Cyberpunk Prophet, like that would be cool." That would be really neat.
I'm down. I think that'd be awesome. That's a really cool like space that's not really explored very much either. So I think it'd be sweet.
Yeah, I think that again with like if they do limit the amount of classes that are made and then just like have variations on a theme where they have like cleric and then they introduce however many of the talents, if they wanted to do all of them, then I don't know, they could if they weren't going to be printing new heroes anyway, or new classes in general if they do stop at an endpoint. But being able to have that sort of that canvas to like look at, okay, here's what we're working with. And what combinations do we want to make that like are inspiring? Yeah. Where I think that would be really, really cool. But either way, I am very excited to see what they do with cleric. I was hoping to be able to hold on to my extra Heart of Fyendals because if cleric does happen, I feel like the life gain will be relevant. But I actually just had somebody message me asking if they can buy one of my extras, and I only have 2 extras right now, so it's I'm getting a little bit scant.
I've sold both of my extras over time. I used to have 3 total. I only have 1 now.
Yeah, I mean that's what makes the most sense. But yeah, anyway, Outlaw Paul, I think you and I are kindred spirits when it comes to cleric.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, fingers crossed for the both of us that we get something soon.
I'm down for it. Even though I want assassin more than anything, I would love to see cleric. And we know 100%, with 100% certainty that there is going to be a brand new class in Dynasty that was from the lore book. And both assassin and cleric are among those. So I think there's a decent chance, we're going to see one of them soon. So yeah. Fingers crossed for something cool. I'm really excited for this. I mean, we literally just had Uprising come out, but I'm really excited for Dynasty. I want to see new stuff.
Yeah, it's gonna be brilliant. The cleric's just gonna turn up in the middle of the Civil War and just be like starting to heal everybody and create peace again.
Yeah, it's just the UN.
Like
just turning up.
Draconic cleric that like cauterizes wounds instead of like healing.
Yeah.
There's some cool stuff, I think. Yeah.
There's so much potential.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that we could probably wrap it up there with our Arsenal step.
Yeah.
I think so.
So I believe Kel did a second one, Kel did a second one in a row last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe I don't remember, but if anyone has a good one, go for it. Yeah,
I can never keep track of them. As do you have anything this week?
If
not, that's okay. I have something off the top that I could just talk about.
Yeah, go for it then.
Yeah. So normally I know we try to keep Arsenal's sort of not flesh and blood related, but this one I'm just so excited about, and I want to talk about it anyway.
Nice.
But yesterday at my armory, I played a revised version of my Aggro Prism deck, which is why I just tweeted out Aggro Prism in all caps yesterday.
That's why. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I played it initially because somebody else was playing a very similar deck that was based around the combo between Frightmare and Rouse the Ancients. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh man, that's spicy. And then they were also playing Transmogrify to make the base power of Rouse the Ancients 8 or 7 so that you can get the plus off of its own effect by revealing the Frightmare. And so you're attacking for like 15 with Go again. And I was just like, I think that's really neat. And so I put together a deck around that theme, went hard 0-4, didn't come close to winning a game the first time. Actually, sorry, I went 1-3 because I had a bye, so technically didn't go 0-4. But
that's the way you roll.
Yeah, but this time around, yesterday, I revamped the deck, made it a little bit more streamlined, and I was actually able to win a game against one of our local Chain players who plays Chain a lot. And is just like, he was a really good sport about it. Shout out to Jay, you're my pal. Yeah, he was giving it his all, and at the end of the game, I was able to attack him. I attacked him with a phantasm or a veiled intentions snatch for 5 that he wasn't able to pop, and then I followed that up with a miraging metamorph for 7. Both of them had go again, and then I followed that up with a fractal replication, which was for 7 and had the snatch draw on it. And then ended it off with a Wartune Herald. So I think I was able to attack him for 24 in the last turn. That was the only game that I was able to win, unfortunately, but it was an actual real win, and I was so pumped about it. And even losing, I think this deck is super fun. So
It sounds
just wanted
fun.
to spread the excitement. It is. It's like not actually a very good deck, but it can high roll, and when it high rolls and you get to just play Fractal Replication, people start complaining about how annoying Fractal Replication is as a card.
Fractal Replication is like sweet. That card is like super cool. Like the other one, Miraging Metamorph, is the one that saw way more play out of like Everfest, but I think Fractal is like my favorite of the two because it's just fun. Like it has all the hallmarks of like, you know, cards that I love. Like it has like this variable power. It can take effects and copy things. It's a cool card. And also, I love aggro decks, and what I used to call Pummel Prism or Angel Prism was like my favorite way to play Prism. I just play angels and then I pummel you. That's it. Yep.
Yeah, viable strategy.
Yeah. So I dig it. I think it's cool. I'm glad you won a game.
Yeah, fair and square.
Honestly, that seems like a really fun like UPF deck, to be honest. Like,
Oh yeah.
I think that's like a UPF deck in the making there. That would be really
I was very tempted to pitch it as a deck to play, but yeah, I mean we had the themed version, so I don't know, maybe in the next one. But anyway,
we got a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got some spicy UPFs lined up with regards to what the themes are of each one.
Yeah. The next episode is going to be Uprising themed. I think we've already kind of shared that a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we already have plans for at least one more after that, and then like we have plans for like or at least an idea for an end of the year one as well. I'm really excited for all these. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much fun to play, so much fun to film, so much fun to watch.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, phenomenal. Anyway, with that being said, thank you for joining me, both of you, and thank you, listeners at home, for hanging out with us. Again, this was a little bit more of a less structured, loosey-goosey, casual discussion, but I think it was a good time as always. In terms of signing off, I am Bill from the Spike Feeders. You can find me on Twitter at BillTSF. Or on YouTube on the channel Spike Feeders Fab. We do live gameplay. We did a couple of episodes of CC gameplay where it was a little bit more condensed. And I think the final episode of that is actually going to be coming out. I guess this episode is going to be coming out just before our 4th one, and then we'll have the 5th one after that, and then a wrap up coming in very short order. But if that's something that interests you, then feel free to check out our channel. Az, where can we find you, your next in alphabetical order?
Cool. Yeah, so I'm Az from Go Again Gaming, and obviously 1/3 of this fantastic Living Legends podcast. Just recently started a new series as well called The Azalea Cult, which I've mentioned on this briefly, which is another little series that I'm really happy to do because I just love the character, and a little bit of a spoiler as well. Mr. Red Zone Rogue's going to be on the next episode of it as well.
Oh, yes, I am.
So
He's a very cool guy.
He's a cool guy, and he knows a lot about the Rangers.
I do know a little about the Ranger class.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man,
So,
I'm excited. I think it's going to be fun. People should check it out. I mean, they should check it out right now too, on the ones that I'm not on.
It's such a cool idea for a series. I really like the Azalea Cult. Like it's just awesome getting people to band together to appreciate this just unbelievably flavorful but maybe not as playable class.
Absolutely.
And I guess Hero specifically, but yeah, I love Azalea.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all about spreading the love of that, and yeah, other videos like that on my channel, just chilling out and doing other things as well. So just go and check that out. That's Go Again Gaming on YouTube and on Twitter. I like to post random stuff, and my little my little tag on there is I've got Twitter and tag mixed up, but we can call it a twag.
Sure.
Is Go Again Gaming AZ. That's where you can find me on there. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Excellent.
And last but certainly not least, Kel.
I am the last. My name is Kel, also known as Red Zone Rogue. You can find me Red Zone Rogue everywhere. YouTube, Twitter are the two big ones. I occasionally do Facebook and Instagram, but not as much. And I do content mostly about Flesh and Blood, like 80-90%, but about other card games as well. There's a couple that I'm very, very excited about that are coming out at the end of the year, and I also have a second channel dedicated entirely to a Japanese card game called We Cross that is growing and doing pretty well. We recently hit over 1,000 subs on there, so if you like the animes, you can go check that one out too. It's very, very anime, but it's a great game. Anyway, so yeah, that's where you can find me.
Epic.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. But yeah, once again, thank you everybody for hanging out with us today. We really appreciate it as always. And until next time, stay well, stay safe, and we will catch you on the next episode of the Living Legends podcast.
Yeah, see you later, everyone.
Lovely old job.